All right, guys, if you shoot darker skin tones, you need to be aware that you can really screw it up. You can make people look way too orange or way too yellow, okay? You do not want your subjects to look like an Oompa Loompa or like they need a liver transplant, okay? And it's real easy to do, darker skin tones. There's varying shades of skin tones. I mean, we've got this model here. We've got another one. This model's a little bit lighter. This model is a little bit darker. You come over here and we've got a model that's even a lot lighter still, and it's real easy to screw these skin tones up. So I'm going to tell you today the 3 things you can do in camera while you're shooting to make things a lot easier for you and to maintain the integrity of that skin tone color, all right, while you're shooting. So it makes your life a lot easier in the editing process, okay? The second thing that we'll talk about is complementary colors, right? What are the best colors to use for different skin tones, okay? And what are some that maybe you want to avoid or just be careful with, okay? And the third thing we'll talk about is if you didn't get it right, how to fix that in post-editing, and we'll go through an example of methods I use in post-editing to sort of fix skin tones that weren't right straight out of camera. All right, so I've shot with many models of color, as you can see here. So I've had some time to kind of figure this out, how to get this right in camera and make things just my job easier in editing, where I don't really have to think about skin tones as much anymore because I know I'm being true to the integrity of the color as I'm taking the shot, right? The color of the skin. So how do we do that? How do we get it right in camera? Well, the number one thing I will say to getting skin tones right that I figured out early on was the white balance. Make sure your white balance is correct, whether you're shooting on location or in studio. If you're shooting outside, if it's daytime, make sure your white balance is set to daytime or custom set it. Learn how to do that. Learn how to set your white balance based on the environment, right? If you're in studio, it's a little bit different, right? You usually want to have it set to, if you're not sure what to set it to, set your white balance to the flash setting. At least that's what it's called in Sony cameras. Set it to flash. That's going to get you probably around 5500 white balance, depending on the camera brand. In my studio, I've landed on 4800. That's what I shoot at in studio religiously, is 4800. That gets me really good skin tones every time, and I don't have to worry about it. So 4800, 5000, somewhere around there is what I've landed on. Okay, so I'll give you an example of what it looks like when your white balance is wrong in studio. So let's come over here. So straight out of camera, it was at 6173. So this is back in 21. I must have had the white balance set on auto. Okay. Here I had it a little bit warm. What happens if I bring this back? Let's go to 4800. I'm just going to set it to my setting of 4800, and instantly it looks a lot better, right? Her skin doesn't look, here's the before and there's the after. So her skin looks, it's not perfect. It's still a little bit gold right up here, but it's a lot better. But that right there improved things a lot. So white balance is the number one thing I would say in getting it right in camera. Number 2 is going to be your ambient lighting. If you're shooting in studio, you usually want to kill that ambient. What do I mean? What's ambient lighting? When I first started, I was like, what do they mean ambient lighting? That's the lighting in the room. It could be the overhead lights. It could be any lights that you have coming in. It could be light coming in from a window. You want to kill that. How do you do that when you're shooting in studio? Well, it's in your camera settings, okay? So set your shutter to 1/200 or 1/250, whatever your flash sync speed is. Look that up. Flash sync speed for your camera. That's going to be the maximum shutter that you're going to be able to set, right? Before it goes into like high speed sync, if you have that option. On my camera, it's 1/250, okay? Set your ISO to the base ISO. Usually that's 100 or 200. And then here's the one setting that you're really going to adjust to get what you want, and that's going to be your aperture. And usually no lower, the number I mean, you usually want it to be no lower than 5.6. So 5.6 or the number higher than that is going to kill all the ambient in the room. If you have a modern mirrorless, it's going to give you a preview, and you're going to see that on the screen, where the preview on the screen goes black. This is before you have your flash turned on, okay? If you have a flash trigger attached, turn that off or detach it and get your ambient in the room so that the screen looks black. Or if you take a picture, it comes out almost black. It doesn't have to be perfect black, but you're pretty much killing all the ambient light at that point. Why is killing the ambient important? Well, if you have studio lights, for example, that are those sort of fluorescent lights, or they're sort of that yellow, nasty yellow lighting in the ceiling that a lot of these places have, that will kill your skin tones if it bleeds into your shots. I can see it in when people post these shots, digitals or what have you, and the model looks a little, the skin tone has some yellowish overtones to it. It's from bad lighting in the room. You got to kill that bad lighting. You got to get it out of your shot. Okay. So that's the number 2 thing. Number 3 is complementary color. So have you ever heard someone say, well, oh, that color looks great on you, whether it's your wardrobe or whatever, or, you put, like me, I can't wear a pale yellow shirt. I look sick. I look like I need to go to the hospital in that color, right? Some colors look better on us than others, right? Well, it's the same thing in studio. What's your background color you're going to choose? How are you placing your models? I'll give you an example. This is back from probably 2021 or so. Mariah, I was shooting outside at like one of those malls, outdoor malls. And those are fun places to shoot because they have a lot of store facades that have all kinds of different colors and tones, right? And I really like that, the textures and tones of buildings and things like that. So instinctually, I noticed, I was looking at these last night. We were just outside. She changed her outfit a couple times, but I was placing her in areas that had really nice sort of earth tones. Now, this is a little yellowy, but it's not bad. This is golden tones. In this window, there was this kind of golden lighting on the inside. This is the glass is actually the front glass of a store, right? And the lighting on the inside was yellow, and we had this blue, and I stuck her against that, and sort of the golden tones kind of worked. And then I was instinctually placing her with these complementary colors on the buildings, right, that I felt looked good with the skin tone. So there is some instinct that you got to have to know sort of what looks good and what doesn't, right, I would say. And if you don't have that instinct, I'll tell you, these sort of earthy tones are always going to look good with darker skin tones. If you're shooting in studio, the one color that you can't get wrong pretty much is this deep dark red, okay? It's going to look good pretty much with every skin tone that is melanated. I've never had this deep dark red. It just looks good regardless. This color is always going to be extremely flattering, no matter what kind of skin tone they have, right? So other colors, I'll go back to earth tones, right? Sort of the beigey colors are always going to look really good. And we're talking about backgrounds and even clothing too. So these beige tones, here's another one where we have these sort of earthy tones in the shot. Looks real good with her skin tone. Here's another one. This was a canvas backdrop. We had these brown and beige tones. Earth tones, beiges, browns, always going to flatter the skin tones, right? Greens, let's find light greens and lime greens look really good, along with say orange also is very flattering, right? So here I got a combination of 2 flattering colors that flatter darker skin tones, right? Here's orange, right? Always looks good almost with darker skin tones, okay? Can't go wrong with orange, with the deep dark red. Those are all my go-to colors that always seem to look really good. So where you got to be careful is sort of neutral colors, right? So here's a neutral color because there's nothing to distract your eye away from the color on her skin. You see what I'm saying? It's neutral. It's gray back there. So for instance, this one, you've got all this color that is complementing him. And, you've got a lot more color in the shot, the browns in the sweater, the oranges, and then you have his skin tone. So your eye doesn't go straight to his skin tone, right? Neutral tones are going to be a lot less forgiving, right? You're just looking at her skin tone there. If you go over to this one, it's her skin tone. That's the main color in the shot, right? So here's one where I washed it out a little bit. A lot of neutral colors in here. She looks a little washed out. I would go back and probably re-edit this shot. Nice shot and everything. She looks way too washed out. So there's one. I'm just going to be real with you guys. I don't always get it right, okay? Here's another one, white background. This one came out pretty good. her skin tones look really good. Watch out bringing up shadows. You don't want to whitewash your models, right? You want to keep the integrity of the skin tones, okay? So here's another one, came out really nice. There's nothing to look at. There's no color in here except her skin. And so when you're shooting against neutral, you better get it right. And that's why I see a lot of digitals, model digitals and comp cards that look really bad because the skin tones are off, okay? So colors to watch out for. Blue to a certain extent can really, so here's a blue. I mean, not bad with her. I mean, she looks a lot better with this red, right? This was really more of an artsy shot. I had blue light hitting her, but blue in the outfit, you got to watch that a little bit. It's sort of a greenish blue here. I kind of toned it down a little bit, but so you got to watch out blue. I mean, here's blue, looks fine. Now the yellow is one that you really got to watch out for. And here's the one, and this one, I think if you look at my studio, I've got all this seamless backdrop paper in all different colors, but you won't find yellow, I think, because I'm still traumatized from this shoot because there's the before and that's what it came out as, right? So this was actually a bright yellow background, just with the lighting didn't hit the backdrop and it's making it look sort of gold, right? So be careful with yellow. Darker skin tones are going to look great with yellow though. So let's talk about fixing these, okay? Let's look at the orange one first, okay? So this one is recent and it's not bad at all. I mean, I felt like just looking in retrospect at this one, her face, some of that orange was catching on her face a little bit here from this dress, and it's real close to going over the top. Now, you look at the skin tones on her body and her face and they don't really match. So that's where I could have done, a better job here. But this is not bad by any means. But what we could do, you can, if you want to isolate, say, the skin from the clothing, you use masks for that, right? For instance, we'll come over here to the masking and we have the mask options for entire person, but let's edit that. And let's just say we want to do facial skin, right? And we can choose neck and body. Let's just focus on the facial skin because it's a little bit, we'll update the mask, right? And we can go to HSL. Now, orange and yellow are going to be your operative colors. For this one, we're looking at orange. If we go too far, see that? See her face? She's Oompa Loompa land, right? That's what you want to avoid. And this is what I see a lot of is orange skin tones like this, way too orange. So we bring it back. Here's where I was at. Was it 0? Well, let's go to we'll bring it to -2. So I was around there. I could maybe bring it back to -10, small moves, and that looks a little bit better. So it's real subtle, but let's look at, so there's the before and there's the after. Very, very subtle, but I did take some of the orange out of the skin. That's a little bit of an improvement, right? You just don't want to have these shots where the skin looks orange like that. And this orange slider is your friend. If you think the skin is a little bit orangey, go to the HSL, go to the saturation, make sure you're in saturation. You can adjust the hue, right? That's going to change the hue, the color of it, right? You can really mess things up. I suggest go to the saturation. If you think that there could be a little bit orangey, bring it back to -10, okay, on the whole image. You don't even have to use a mask, and see if that improves things, and 99% of the time it does. The other thing that will affect skin tones is yellow. Not so much here. We don't have a lot of yellows in this one. Okay, let's go to one where we're in bad liver land. That's this one right here. There's the original, right? I did some edits, so let's bring it back to the original. So yellow is the operative thing here. We'd probably want to use a mask on this one, but we could, the yellow's in the whole shot, but we could bring the yellow back. That helps a little bit. Could bring, play around with the orange. That could help a little bit. But really, let's go back to what I said first. Let's go to the white balance. You can see I shot at 6173 here, and we talked about this earlier. So let's fix that, and let's go to 4800, and let's start there before we start dragging colors around. Start with your white balance, right? Get that right, okay? We're in the ballpark now because our white balance is correct. Look, you see that? I mean, it's so much better. There's before and there's after. We could do some other things now. with, her skin's a little darker on the shoulder than in the face. So here's where Voto stands out a little bit. I can go to the skin retouching panel over here and go down. They have this skin tone feature here, and maybe I want to bring the browns back in the skin tone, and I can crank that up a little bit and bring her skin tone back a little bit, right? So I can do that if I want to. They know that the temperature impacts the skin tone because look, they have it right here. So that just confirms what I'm telling you about the white balance, right? So we could even bring that back a little bit until we get the skin tones just dialed into where we want them. And so there's before and there's after, and we're in a lot better position now. We're not in bad liver land like we were there. Let's look at another one. This is one that I posted and it wasn't that long ago, and I look at it now in retrospect, and it's a little bit like, just with all this yellowish grass, it's washing her out again. Okay, so what can we do to kind of fix that? Well, like I said, let's go back to my very first thing and let's look at the white balance. Now, this is an edited shot, so it's already been edited. I don't have the original white balance, but let's play with it anyway, and let's bring the temp down to, we could bring it down to minus 18 or so. I don't know, we could warm it up. She's in the sun. It's not really helping a lot. I don't have the original raw file up right now, but what we could do, let's try the HSL trick a little bit. So let's maybe give her some skin tone. Maybe we bring the orange up. See, you run the risk of that's too orange, and so I'm having trouble here. What we used to have in Photoshop was these gradients where you could import sort of a gradient wash of a brown skin tone over the image and then use mask to just give her some of that skin tone back. That's what I used to use. Now we'll go back to, on this one, let's see what we can do with the skin retouching, and we'll go back. Let's pick this select skin tone and let's pick this one, and just like that, man, we brought some tone and color back into her skin, right? And I feel like, see, there's the before washed out. Now we've given her some of that brownish color back into the skin. And certainly we can make some more tweaks, but that's what you're looking to do. You don't want to wash them out, okay? So 2 examples there. You don't want to go too orange and you don't want to go too yellow, okay? So when is it okay to have a little bit of golden light in there? Well, maybe sunsets and sunrises. Same model here. Look at her. Look how colorful. I mean, this is natural light, right? And I just left, it's a little, if you zoom into just her face, yes, it's a little bit orange, but it's pretty nice, right? Because we've got the golden light from, this was a sunrise early in the morning we shot, and it just looks beautiful to me. Now, if you felt like it was too orangey, you could come over to the HSL and pull the orange back, what did I say earlier, to like 10, okay? And that's going to just bring it. Usually that's about where you want to be, right? Really nice. So before and after, I don't know. I kind of liked it, in the context of it being the golden sunlight. I felt like it looked pretty good the way it was, but maybe a little bit orange, and you can bring it back just a little bit, just with the HSL, just a little bit, right? And then this maroon skirt really looks good. Complementary colors again, right? So maybe with sunsets and sunrises, you're going to get something a little nicer. Here's one. I feel like maybe let's go back to the white balance. Maybe this is an edit, so I don't think this is the raw. No, this is an edit, but let's go to the temp, and I feel like it's a little cool because it was. So, you can bring this up and mimic sort of a sunset, but it's not really working there. She's a little bit cool to me still, so I probably want to go to the raw, back to the raw, and play with that temp a little bit, but we could easily go back to the HSL. The operative colors are mainly orange, right? Maybe we give her a little color, right? Here I boosted it all the way up to 40, and I feel like it looks decent. So there's the before and there's the after. And now we look like we have that sunset sort of golden light shot. So you can actually add orange in certain cases and it's going to look good, okay? So you just have to be able to recognize what is too orange, what is too yellow. If you think maybe it's too orange and too yellow, it probably is. Make these subtle adjustments and you're good to go. All right, guys, what did you think? Leave a comment. If you've got suggestions about how I could improve the way I'm doing things, because I'm certainly not perfect and I'm not the greatest photographer in the world. I don't claim to be, and I do make mistakes. So leave suggestions suggestions of how you do it, how you make things skin tones better straight out of camera or in editing. What is your process? And I'll greatly appreciate it. Give it a like, give it a subscribe. Hope you guys learned something in this video and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.